Hello, this is Chris Cooper, and a big welcome to the Business Elevation Show. It's brilliant to be back with you again. You're joining us on episode 616. Yes, we've been going for 14 years now, and broadcasting to over 50 countries typically. So it's brilliant to be back with you again with another fantastic guest. We're going to talk about psychological safety at work with Mehmet Baha, and he likes to be called Baha. That's the name that most people call him. Before I introduce you to Baha, I just like to say, and this show is about helping you in whatever you're doing, as maybe you're in business, maybe you're in a charitable organization or an educational establishment, or but in some way, care about leadership and care about also contributing through your work to a better world. And that's what we really care about on this show, because we believe that good matters. We believe that it's important to be thinking about how do we utilize our working lives to bring people together, not to polarize them, to make this a better place for our children and the people who follow us onto this planet. So we've moved into very much into that space with this show. So what I want to do is just bring with you to you guests who are doing work that in some ways is contributing to a better world and not taking away from it, not making it a darker place as it might feel right now. The other thing I would say is, having done so many interviews, is that I meet so many people, and I've interviewed over the years, so many people are doing good things. And it's very easy to think from the media that the world is very negative and dark. And actually, there is an awful lot of good going on. Over the last few days, I've had my annual event in Oxfordshire, in England, at a beautiful hotel called Western Manor Hotel, where a number of my former guests who have joined me in a community called the Elevation Collective came together to think about and work together on improving the world through their initiatives and through their work. It was the most beautiful place. We had celebrity chef Leon Arts, who was serving 10,000 meals a day in the jungle in Calais, and also feeding thousands of people in London during COVID. David Fox Pitt, MBE, joined us via Zoom, who has been helping 5,000 people a day have food and feel hope in Ukraine for 3.5 years through their charity Hopeful. But many of our members are doing similar exceptional things, or they're supporting leaders to do great work. So we met for our annual get-together in this week, and it was incredible. We were talking about thinking big. We're talking about embracing setbacks, and we're talking about getting into action, not hesitating, and building our own confidence to move forward with our projects. So if you're interested in finding out more about the collective, do check out chriscooper.co.uk. So we're going to talk today about psychological safety at work with Mehmet Baha, and what it really takes to create a workplace where people feel truly safe. They take risks and perform at their very best. I think it's a really important subject. It is a favourite subject, actually, because our organisations often don't provide that safety for people, and therefore you don't get as good a performance or results as people keep quiet, and they don't collaborate as well together. They don't share ideas or innovate as well. Now, Mehmet Baha is known simply as Baha, an international speaker, trainer, and author. And his life's mission has been to make a positive difference in people's lives. So he's very aligned with this show. With over 24 years of global experience, he's worked across Europe, the USA, Turkey, Central America. And he's worked with organizations of all sorts of sizes, including one of the first employees at Facebook in Europe. He's a Fulbright Scholar with a master's in conflict resolution and a graduate of Harvard Business School's online executive program in organizational leadership. And he's really passionate about helping leaders to unlock environments of psychological safety. His new book is called Creating Psychological Safety at Work. And it's been praised by Daniel Pink as a timely book filled with fascinating case studies, robust research, and practical tools for driving change. It basically has a roadmap within it to help us build high-performing and engaged teams. He's delivered talks in over 28 countries across 5 continents. He speaks 4 languages. He's also a percussionist, and an avid traveler, and he enjoys playing basketball with his young daughter. A couple of keen things. And he lives in Berlin. So a big, big welcome to my guest today, to Baha.
Thank you for the invitation, Chris, and for the wonderful introduction as well.
You're
Pleasure
very,
to be
very,
here.
you're very, very welcome. So, Baha, you're living in Berlin. You've traveled all over the globe. You speak lots of different languages. You've mentioned we've worked in 28 countries. Where's your country of origin, and what's it like to live in Berlin?
Yes, originally I'm from Cyprus, and I was born and raised in Cyprus. And for the last 20 years, let me see if it's 20 years. No, it's not. 2000, sorry, it's almost 20 years. For the last 19 years, um, have been living outside of the island. And for the last 12 years, I've been living in Berlin, Germany.
Oh,
So yeah, in Berlin, it's an interesting city, and I enjoy living here as well.
excellent. Well, we in England, when we say interesting. It actually doesn't mean that's interesting. It can mean it's interesting, and sometimes people are amused at the British because interesting is a bit more cryptic. So, is
Yes,
it really a great place to live, Berlin? I've enjoyed my visit. So,
yeah. Before coming to Berlin, I lived in Ireland for 4 years, and after Ireland, Berlin was a big shock to me in terms of the culture. At that time, 12 years ago, I was working at a German company, very traditional one. So coming from Facebook, very international, global, to traditional German one was like big shock in terms of the way they communicate, etc. And after that, I learned German. So I took a break from work, almost 1 year. I learned German, and learning the language actually helped me appreciate the culture a lot. And Berlin is a global city. It's very cosmopolitan. You can find people from all around the world. It's open. It's a startups. It's a different world in Germany in comparison to other German cities.
and how would you describe? So there's a lot of it's very very mixed in terms of culturally, but
Yeah.
how would you describe the German culture? You said it was maybe quite different compared to Ireland, for example.
Yeah. Of course, it depends on the person, specific organizations. You can find really different organizational cultures, corporate cultures as well inside Germany. Overall, I can say that in Germany, there is a lot of focus on discipline. Yeah, discipline, punctuality, coming on time. And another thing is maybe people talk less, and they're conscious that what they say needs to be delivered. I used to have one German boss, manager, who was the owner of the company. And once he told me, Baha, whatever you say comes out of your mouth to our customers or partners, it's your contract. So you need to deliver that. So be careful what you say. So normally in Germany, people in business context, in comparison to other countries, maybe they talk less because they're conscious that whatever they say, they feel that they need to implement it. So I learned here under promise and over deliver. And another thing in the business context is, to put it politely, humor is not the strength of Germany. I'm saying it in a polite way. So when I do business meetings, trainings, I need to read the room if they can understand humor. If not, then I need to, be conscious of that. So punctuality, discipline, keeping your promises, humor, these are just some of the aspects in Germany which make them, I think, unique.
Excellent. I did see recently a German comedian in the UK,
Ah,
and I think one of the favorite jokes that he shared was he said that actually we're quite similar in terms of humor, but the one big difference, we both like humor, is that the Germans go to work and then they have a laugh afterwards. The British goes to work to have a laugh.
Yeah, yeah. So what I told you maybe is like the majority. At the same time, you can find really people who are in minority that do amazing humor or that are totally different in these regards. I can give you an example. I do sports. I take part in classes like strength training, etc. Once I went to a session, the trainer was a German guy. He's also a professional dancer, model. The whole class, it was like a comedy show, making jokes all the time. So we can always find exceptions as well.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about well, tell us a bit about Facebook actually.
Yeah.
What was it like to work at Facebook with one of the first employees, and then you went on and later worked with Apple. Quite a quite a formative time around Facebook development. What did you learn about culture, performance, and psychological safety from working with these organizations?
Yeah, Facebook 16 years ago, 2009, I was one of the first employees of Facebook in Europe back then. The European headquarters in Dublin, Ireland. And at that time, the company was growing exponentially, a lot of success. And at the same time, the company was winning Best Place to Work awards internationally. So very special times to work there, meet with Mark Zuckerberg, and contribute to the organization's success. Especially at that time, Facebook had a very high level of psychological safety. And unfortunately, the situation changed and it's not true anymore. And of course, it was not a paradise working there. Still, you are encouraged to take initiatives and create projects. You can make mistakes, learn from them. It was a cultural psychological safety. You feel safe to speak up, come up with ideas, do initiatives, bring projects. And I think what made Facebook unique at that time, in around in the beginning of 2000, the focus was on desktop, the internet technology, websites, etc. And then there was a shift around 2010 from desktop to mobile. And now the shift is from mobile to AI. And from desktop to mobile, 2010, I remember Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO, he said to us, this is the future of mobile apps. We need to make this shift because in the future, more people will access our services on the mobile than desktop. And then it was like a transformation. And to achieve this, he said, we need your ideas as well to contribute to this. So it was a very special experience for me in terms of working in an organization with a high level of psychological safety back then.
Yeah, and besides psychological safety, you're also we'll come back to that in a moment, but you're also a musician. Is there any have you learnt anything about psychological safety from being a percussionist? Tell us a little bit about your percussion experiences and I can imagine trust in a band, for example, is
Yeah,
important. And
yeah. Actually, I started music when I was 6 years old with the piano, classical piano. And I passed the examinations of Royal Schools of Music from the UK. To be honest, I didn't like that much playing the piano, and my parents were encouraging me. So I played classical piano for 10 years till 16 years old. And now when I look back, I think it was a great decision on my parents. Now it helped me to read notes, understand the music theory, and playing the piano is basics. Now I feel really grateful for my parents. And I played percussion in different countries in the US, Germany, Turkey, Cyprus, different artists, bands. And now when I think about psychological safety and the music, the trust, it's first of all, being on the stage, I think is one of the purest moments where artists can feel a sense of belonging. You can say, you can act how you want, express yourself. I think it's the level of sense of belonging on a stage, I think is much higher than a typical organization in any place, because in organization you need to think 3 times maybe before saying something. But I think artists are free, much more free in many places to express themselves. So in terms of sense of belonging, I think music has a very high higher sense. And playing in a band, it's important for me as well. Recently, I played in a couple of bands, and the last one was a band where information is not clear. It's not clear who does what, who is the band leader. It was a total chaos. So I I had to leave that band. So it's in terms of the dynamics, it's also important in music to have clarity, communication, vision. Where are we going? Who does what? And also to feel safe to express your own ideas to contribute to the music.
So, how would you define psychological safety? What's your
Yeah, inspired by the work of A. Matheson, she's a leading academic on the topic. Psychological safety is a workplace where employees feel safe to express their questions, concerns, ideas, and mistakes. Psychological safety is the key aspect of high-performing teams and organizations, and leaders play a crucial role in creating psychological safety. There is a report of Gallup, and in the report, the statement is this: when employees feel that their opinions count, when you feel that your opinion counts, it means you feel safe to express your opinions and your opinions are valued. We see the following benefits: 27% reduction in employee turnover, 27% reduction, 40% reduction in safety incidents, because you can report hazards, potential risks, and 12% increase in employee productivity. So when you think of a big organization, these are huge numbers, millions, hundreds of millions dollars or euro or UK pound. So psychological safety is a key aspect of high-performing teams and organizations.
excellent? And how would you relate that to say trust? I know you talk about that in the book.
Mhm.
Um, is it part and parcel of the same thing or something different?
Yeah, trust is one aspect of psychological safety. Certain people think that we have training on trust and now we covered psychological safety.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not true, because psychological safety, you have other concepts like showing vulnerability, how to deal with mistakes, etc. Trust is one aspect of it, and at the same time, psychological safety is broader than just trust.
And the same with emotional intelligence. Again, I have scanned through your book, and you
Mhm,
talk about, people often say, well, I've been on a course about trust, I've been on a program about emotional
mhm,
intelligence. Do I
mhm,
need a program about psychological
mhm.
safety?
Yeah, psychological safety adds other elements such as how to deal with mistakes. And so in many organizations, what I notice is that certain people either think it's totally fine to make any mistake, we can celebrate them, or other people think, we shouldn't make any mistakes, we serve customers, any mistake is dangerous, and definitely not do it. So to create psychological safety, we need to be aware of different mistake types and deal with them accordingly. One mistake type is unacceptable mistakes. Let's say, despite all the training, resources, help, support, you do not put a safety helmet and you work in a factory and you suffer an injury.
Hmm.
That's an unacceptable mistake. In that case, we can warn the person, and as leaders, we need to ensure that unacceptable mistakes do not happen in the first place. The second mistake type is improvable mistakes. Let's say we have an unfinished product or service. We present this to potential customers. The idea is to get their feedback, find out the shortcomings of the product or service, and improve it. So we need to enable such mistakes, learn from them. Another mistake type is complex mistakes. They are caused by multiple factors. In case such mistakes happen, we need to analyze them systematically to prevent them from happening again. Another mistake type is intelligent mistakes. Let's imagine we create a breakthrough product or service. We launch this to the market. It's not that successful. We get insights from that, and maybe next time we can create a better product. So in the case of intelligent mistakes, novel ways of doing, we can celebrate those. So The main idea here is to distinguish different mistake types and act accordingly rather than automatically punishing people who make mistakes.
I mean, that's a really good point, isn't it? Because you're right. Some mistakes could be a single mistake could be fatal, and other mistakes may be non-critical.
Yeah.
When I used to work for Mars, the confectionery and electronics company, but I worked for confectionery. The managing director always used to say it's okay to make a mistake, but never make the same mistake twice. But I suppose, as you say, there's a number of different categories of those, and if you're in a hospital or possibly a certain mistake on the manufacturing line could be you could have significant consequences.
Yeah, yeah, true. The main idea here, irrespective of the irrespective of the type of the mistake, we shouldn't repeat the same mistakes. The idea is to learn from them, share the mistakes. Others can also learn from it, and then we can improve. So there are organizations which are very successful. They share their mistakes not only internally, but also externally, so that their partners, ecosystem, suppliers, and even their competitors can learn from the mistakes to inspire them, and then they do not repeat it. There is one example in Canada. The university is called McGill University. It's a very prestigious university in Canada. In 2013, at that time, one of the big topics was sustainability. So the university started a campaign on sustainability to educate students, staff, academic staff, employees, and also the society. And they started their campaigns, initiatives, and anyways, while they were doing these campaigns, they created a report called Failure Report.
Yeah.
This report basically talks about their main learnings. The focus is not on mistakes. The focus is on the learnings out of these mistakes.
Yeah.
They publish this. It's online to share with the world, to inspire others as well. And when you look at the report, on one of the pages, you can see their experience. Their experience was with a consulting company. So in order to start this campaign on sustainability, they collaborated with one consulting company. And it turned out that they couldn't have good results. The collaboration was not good. And the main lesson out of this was clarify, as McGill University, your expectations from the consulting company before you start working with them. So that's the main lesson. And next time, in case we collaborate with external partners, make sure that we as a university have clear expectations from them before we can start. So there are also inspiring examples like that, sharing mistakes internally and externally. The main idea here is others can also learn internally, and the same mistakes are not repeated, and we can be more successful.
And a client of mine, we some cards were printed, and on them the card said everybody employee was given a card, and it said on it, when we make mistakes, we don't blame. Together we find solutions. And it was like a refereeing card. It was red, so actually you could actually hold it up in a meeting when you saw somebody blaming. But what it was designed was that actually we get together and we work out a solution. So I think it made a bit more, a bit of safe environment to talk about mistakes. It's quite smart, really.
Yeah, may I ask what's the name of that organization?
Well, that was actually Mars as well.
Ah, okay,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
Typically in organizations, when a mistake happens, the first question is who made the mistake, who, and how to punish that person.
yeah.
The right approach is what caused this mistake and how can we prevent this from happening again? Because when we ask what caused, we can see different number of factors which can affect it.
Excellent.
And when we say who, then we try to find a scapegoat, take that person out, but maybe we do not go to the root causes. So
Yeah.
what causes and how can we prevent this from happening again?
Fantastic. Well, we're going to get to commercial break now. After the break, we'll look at things like feedback, because that's always difficult. How do we do that in a way which is psychologically safe? We'll look at some of the key components of safety, psychological safety, that are important for leaders to to develop. Because as we said, leaders are really important, as Baha said, in adopting a certain practices that create that psychologically safe
Mhm.
environment, so people can ask questions, they can bring their ideas forward, and they are allowed to make mistakes. Back again with you in just a couple of minutes. Do join us after the break. Hello, this is Chris Cooper. I'm with Baha. We're talking about psychological safety at work. And Baha was explaining before the break about his definition of psychological safety. creating that environment where people can ask questions, where they can share their mistakes, share their ideas very openly. And we started to talk a little bit about feedback as well and why that's important. And he talks about the relationship of psychological safety and trust. So, Baha, feedback can be really difficult to give and to receive for leaders. What practical tools do you recommend for creating a culture where feedback is welcomed? And any tips on giving feedback that enables people to feel safe?
Yeah. Whenever the word feedback is mentioned, what comes to the minds of many business professionals is constructive feedback. So criticism, constructive feedback. Actually, when you look at high-performing teams, there is a research done by Prof. Barbara and her husband. I forgot the name of the husband now. So they're both the researchers, and according to their research, they look at what makes teams high-performing, and they found out that the best performing teams have a ratio of 3 to 5 positive feedback for every negative feedback. So 3 to 5 positive feedback for every negative feedback. So the key insight here is, when we think about feedback, how can we find ways to appreciate our team members? Because once we create a team culture or where we value others, appreciate them, it becomes the basis upon which we can also talk about areas of improvement. And Marcus Buckingham, a leading expert on employee engagement, he always says, you cannot achieve excellence by correcting mistakes. And we as human beings, we grow the most under positive light. So appreciation is aspect number one. How to appreciate our employees, finding ways to appreciate them. And the second aspect, in order to foster psychological safety, is proactive asking for feedback. So as leaders, employees, as human beings, it's crucial for us to proactively approach others and say, ask for specific feedback. For example, regarding project XYZ, what am I doing well and what can I improve? So we ask this. Feed forward is the concept here, popularized by Marshall Goldsmith. We ask these questions, get feedback from others, ask clarifying questions, understand this, say thank you. And then if it's relevant, if it's feedback that is being repeated, take action on it and improve. So appreciate your colleagues, employees, and also proactively ask for feedback. Feed forward is the approach. Define a specific project or behavior. Approach people rather than saying, Chris, give me feedback about myself. This is very general, make it specific. My presentation last Thursday at 2 o'clock to the board, to the director of boards. What did I do well? What can I improve? Proactively do this. And especially since I'm a trainer and consultant for the last 8 years, I do this very intentionally. After each and every talk or even podcast performance that I am in, I will do it with you. In that, I'm going to ask you, Chris, what did I do well in terms of my communication? What can I improve? I always take notes. And when I see recurring patterns, I take action on it. And this really helped me improve my success as well. So appreciation and proactive asking for feedback. This also creates psychological safety in teams.
So, so feedback's kind of two way, isn't it? It's also right. It's interesting as a leader. A leader often might not get feedback. People don't feel safe giving that feedback to them, particularly if it's somebody who reports into them. So, having that ability to create a psychological safety so people can share without repercussion.
Yeah, you raise a really good point, especially the higher you are, maybe the less likely that you get really good, honest feedback. And when we proactively ask for feedback from others, we need to show courage because we also show vulnerability with that because we all have fragile egos. Approaching someone and asking for feedback requires courage, showing vulnerability as well. And at the same time, it's powerful to get this feedback and improve ourselves. And I work with leaders in different countries of the world, different industries. And when I see really successful leaders, they're the ones who are not afraid to approach others, ask for feedback, show this vulnerability,
Mm,
the feedback, and try to improve themselves because it's a lifelong journey.
mm. There's a lovely question that one of my guests, Jack Canfield, guy wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul and series. What Jack said he told me that he did with his team each week was he would ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the quality of our relationship this week? He would do that every week and give people and people somebody some it's a 6, why? Or it's an 8, what could you explain? And he would use that as a way of checking in on getting feedback and also checking in on the environment, the culture that between them. So I thought was quite nice.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. Yeah.
Brave. So
Very,
you write about curiosity, emotional agility, vulnerability being important. How can leaders model these qualities in a way that encourage teams to really experiment and learn and to grow?
yeah. Let's take curiosity, and then after that we take vulnerability. Curiosity. So in the work context, let's say to create ideas, to create products, we need to tap into the curiosity of our employees to ask good questions and get their ideas. Sometimes we as leaders, as human beings, instead of trying to understand the situation or people, we might have our own judgments. So curiosity here and judgment can might negatively affect psychological safety. When I say to you, Chris, you didn't do your work well, or share my negative judgment. Instead of that judgment, we can ask questions. So curiosity questions that I mentioned in the book. There are 7 types of questions: good intention questions, open-ended question, advice question, improvement, clarifying, empathy, and specifying question. Let's start with the good intention. Instead of saying, Chris, do you think you can do this? If I ask this question, this does not, it doesn't have good intentions because I project on you suspicion. Do you think, can you do this, Chris? So instead of asking those questions, we can ask, what do you need, Chris, to be able to do it? Good intention question. Second, open-ended questions. Sometimes we as human beings or leaders, employees, sometimes we ask questions, did you understand it? Yes or no? Do you have any questions? Yes or no? We can ask who has questions on the topic. What are the risks that you see? So it's open-ended question. And sometimes when we ask questions and to bring out the ideas of employees, if they cannot come up with an idea, maybe another question for me is advice question. So I say to you, Chris, what about this idea XYZ? Do you think this idea XYZ can help us improve the user experience? So it's a question and it includes an advice inside it. We can do that in case the person in front of us cannot come up with an idea. There is another question type, for example, empathy. So empathy-based question is, I say to you, Chris, so if you do this podcast recording this way, how do you think will it be perceived by your listeners? Or how will your customers find this product if we do it this way? So we try to, with the question, put ourselves in the shoes of others. So curiosity is one element, and we need to be intentional in asking good questions to be able to understand others and to give them space to express themselves. The second aspect is vulnerability. Again, when you look at today's world, big portion of managers, leaders are men in politics, business, and for many men especially, vulnerability is something that we need to work on. So typical male leadership style could be based on power, ego, dominance, etc. Vulnerability is just the opposite of this. And at the same time, in our today's world now, we can see leaders who are embracing more and more leaders, especially male ones as well, embracing vulnerability. For example, there is Stephen Bartlett, podcast,
Mm.
Dario CEO. He's a wonderful example. CEO of Novartis was Namarchian. He's an incredible person, embracing vulnerability. And vulnerability basically means we are all human beings. No one is perfect. We can make mistakes. We can share these mistakes if relevant, learn from these mistakes and improve. So to show vulnerability and to foster psychological safety in our team, it's important for us time to time to share with our team a mistake that we have made recently at work, what we learned from the mistake, what's our lesson, and after the lesson, what did we do differently? The focus here is not on, oh, I made a mistake, I'm terrible, and I'm a bad person, I'm stupid, and then we go down feeling really bad. The idea is not that. The focus is on the lesson out of this and what we learned from it and what we did differently to advance in our lives. So curiosity, 7 questions, vulnerability. One mistake you had done recently at work. If you listen to this, you can stop the podcast, take notes, what you learn from that mistake, and based on that, what will you do differently? And sharing this with our team is also crucial, and the teams can see that we are open to this. No one is perfect. We can learn and improve.
Mm. Do you have any? So one of the things that is quite hard to teach and to pick up for many people is language and linguistic patterns. Do you have any thoughts about how what people could practically do to to shift or increase their flexibility when it comes to communication and questions?
Linguistic patterns. What do you mean by it?
So what I mean is, yeah, I mean, you described there a number of different categories of questions that we can ask and ask in a different way to get the answers that we want. So in a psychologically safe way. But it's kind of quite hard when you've used the same questions habitually to kind of get your head around utilizing a different type of question. So I always myself, I used to do an awful lot of sales training years ago. I don't do that typically much sales training at all today. My work is all about culture and people and leadership. But the one session I used to find more challenging was around questioning and questioning types and enabling people to practice and develop that flexibility to ask a question in a different way and change their behavior. Don't you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. In my work as well, working with leaders, managers, in many cases, I do learning journeys, which include a number of training days, face to face, online, and in between coaching sessions. And I see different levels and different reactions based on different people. So it depends on how open a person is, how aware, open, and interested. So to make any
Yeah,
behavior change, we need 5 steps. The first one is awareness.
yeah.
What extent am I aware of this? Second, maybe I am aware, but it's not enough because the second step is interest. To what extent I'm interested in changing this?
Mm,
Third one, let's say I'm aware, I'm interested, and the third one is to what extent do I have the knowledge to make the change? And hopefully with trainings, podcasts, books, etc., we have the knowledge. And the fourth one is action, ability. So practicing this, I'm aware, I'm interested, I have the knowledge, now I practice this, I start asking these questions or to show this behavior. And the next step, the ultimate stage is sustainability. How can I sustain this? The more open a person is, the more aware, the better and the faster for that person to understand this, try it and improve. And of course, everyone has their own levels. I believe that inside each and every one of us, there is a diamond. And for some of us, we need more time cleaning the stone to reach
mm,
the diamond. For others, maybe less time because they do more self-reflection, read more, and try more. So it can take more time for certain people. The main thing is to be aware, open to this, have interest, and then start trying it. I had experiences with people, fast learners, getting the idea, trying it. Once I did a learning session for a company. This company won ATD, American Talent Association, ATD's Best Award. This organization was selected as being the organization with the best learning culture. I did the, I was doing the training. After one hour, we took a break, and the participants come back from the break, and then they were like, "Ah, I called my team. I already started implementing this idea." They were super fast, not waiting the training to finish. In breaks, they were
Mm.
implementing it. And at the same time, I had experiences with participants, PhDs, technical background. They come to the training and they say, I know this already. I have many things to do. I have other priorities. So whatever I share, they were like, I know this. And of course,
Yeah.
I couldn't make use of the training. So it depends on the person. And if in case someone is not interested, is not aware, of course, I don't
Yeah.
have a magic stick. But in case we have awareness, interest, openness, we can make a change.
I suppose the question with people is sometimes, and I've had experiences before, you get the old person with their arms folded, and it's, well, I've heard this before. And then, but the response to that is, but have you truly implemented it? Because the difference between hearing something before and implementing it.
Yeah, true.
So, I might ask them what results they've got, but if you've heard it before, what results have they got by operating a different way? But you're right, it comes down to openness. I want to ask you a question. We've got a couple of minutes or so left, but about compassionate leadership, because leadership, you talk about that in your book. Leadership, it can be seen as, for some people, as it's asking the right questions, it's being in your head, but actually compassion requires you to be in your heart, and I suppose it links into vulnerability as well. Any thoughts on any daily habits to increase the level of compassion for some people who might have less of that? And no disrespect to people in Germany, but we sometimes see the stereotype of some German people, and I've spent time in Germany, so I know it's not all true, being very kind of logical and organized and in their approach, and not wanting to make mistakes and all that sort of thing. But actually, the ability to really use your heart is important.
Yeah. So daily habits. I can start with one example to make the point clear because it might sound compassionate leadership like hippie style, woohoo, hoo-hoo type of thing. I'll give you one example, real
Yep.
case, and then I go to the daily habits. It was during pandemic, one organization in the US. This organization had to fire 15% of its employees. They thought of a way which is fast and sort of automatic to do it. So the CEO recorded a message, and this pre-recorded message was emailed to the employees,
Yep.
which would be fired. They got the email, they click on the link,
Yep.
they watch the pre-recorded message, basically the CEO
Yep.
letting go of employees. And as soon as they finished watching the video, employees were cut off from company's systems. So this is a very fast and efficient way of laying off employees without compassion. Another example is Stripe. It's a software company with two headquarters, Dublin, Ireland, and California, USA.
Mm.
During pandemic again, Stripe had to lay off employees. The way Stripe did was totally opposite to what the other company did. Stripe co-founders, they sent an email to the employees. And in the email, they said, look, here is the situation. We as co-founders, we take the whole responsibility for this because it was our decision to hire you. We apologize to you for this. And we will let go, I think, 5% of employees. I don't remember the exact number. And they said, you are going to get the following benefits. First, we are going to do this face-to-face with you, this conversation. Second, to make it, we can imagine being laid off is tough. We will give you, you can keep your company laptops. Third, We are going to assign you career advisors to help you find new jobs. Fourth, you have stocks. Even without getting vested, these stocks, you can keep them. We will assume that they will be vested. Fourth, we are going to give you alumni email addresses. You are part of our company. Even when you leave this organization, we stay in contact. This alumni
Mm.
email address gives you a special feeling. You are still part of this special organization. And they did it in a very humane way, face to face, talking with them, helping them to find jobs. So, in the first example, no compassion.
Mm.
In the second one, you see how the employee treated the departing employees, and showing compassion to the departing employees also help maintain the psychological safety for the remaining employees in the organization.
Excellent.
So, these are not just abstract concepts. And coming back to the daily habits to show compassion at work, in many cases, I see in business interactions, we start meetings immediately going to the agenda items. One of the things to do is stop and do check-ins. How are you today? How are you feeling? Short check-ins with employees. Take the time to get to know our team members at a personal level. This can also help. And yeah, show humanity in case someone, I don't know, has a difficult time. Take the time to understand them. And I can give you one example, make it specific. My wife, it was like 7 years ago, she ended up in hospital. And in the hospital, certain days she was connecting and then having meetings with her manager. And in none of the times did the manager ask her, "How are you? What's going on?" And the manager knew that she was in hospital. From the perspective of the manager, it's like it's her own personal thing. I shouldn't ask. And from the perspective of my wife, she felt like I am here in the hospital, I'm working, and my manager doesn't even ask me
Yeah.
how are you, how is it going. So these are small.
Oh, we've got to end it there, I'm afraid. If we come to the end of the interview, it's been fascinating talking with you and talking about psychological safety. And hope whatever environment you're in, that you this is a relevant subject. It's relevant in your family as well as at work in community organisations you belong to. Psychological safety is really important if you want to help allow people to have that space to ask the right questions, to learn, to input the ideas that you need, and also to feel safe to make mistakes and feel supported. It's absolutely essential. And Baha shared some really interesting stats as well about what happens to performance and to productivity and to job satisfaction and those sorts of things. It impacts them all, which impacts results. I think if you can create that sort of environment, then you're doing good for people because actually work is very, very important to people's lives. So that's the end of the interview now. If you want to find out more information, you can go to solutionfolder.com. Baha's got lots of information there. He's got lots of free resources that you can access. If you've got any questions or comments, you can drop me an email to chris@chriscooper.co.uk. Like I say, a big thank you to Wendy Keller of Keller Media, who very kindly introduced Baha and Baha and I, Baha and I, Baha and I. So thank you, Wendy. Really, really appreciated. You're a great, great person. And on next week's show, we're going to have a conversation around 10 elevations that can help you thrive in today's challenging workplace. And we may share a little bit about the importance of community as well, which is really, really important. So we'll be back again with you next week. Do join us after the show. If you've enjoyed this interview, please share it out there. Let people know about it. If psychological safety is important to you and to your organization, then that will be appreciated. And I'm sure Bahar will be very happy to connect with anybody who mentions that they've been on this show and approached him on LinkedIn and places like that. So back again with you next week. Take care. Have a great weekend and we'll speak soon. Bye.